Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak, and just to remind you, the panelists here in studio, I will start with the other side. That is Robert Mbui, Member of Parliament for Kathiani constituency and Deputy Minority Leader, National Assembly. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Morning, Sam, and morning, viewers.
Mheshimiwa Nelson Koech from Belgut, Chairperson, Foreign Affairs, Defense and Intelligence.
Good morning, Sam, and good morning, Kenyans.
I have Jen Kagiri, Member of Parliament for Laikipia County. She's the woman representative there. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam, and good morning, viewers.
And Senator Richard Onyonka from Kisii County. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Sammy, and good morning, Kenya.
And should I say that Senator Onyonka is a former Assistant Minister of the Foreign Affairs, so he knows a few things that he'll be helping us understand this morning. Quickly, on the front page of the Standard, you'll see Ruto's blunders. President Ruto's diplomatic missteps on regional conflicts and global alliances may have cost Raila Odinga the AUC chairmanship. Analysts cite his stance on the DRC crisis, Israel-Gaza war, and failure to mobilize key African blocs as key setbacks. Raila considered defeat, vowing to continue serving Africa in other capacities. And the story continues on page 4 and 5, and they are highlighting that Raila led the first two rounds with 20 and 22 votes, but Mahamud surged ahead in the third round. Political observers see Ruto as Africa's blue-eyed boy who shone in his first year but failed to maintain that status. We were there 8 years ago campaigning for Amina Mohamed, and I can say there is fear of having Kenya in a powerful position because it might dictate weaker nations. That is Gunjiri Wambugu, former Nyeri town MP. Apologies for that. He's quoted as having said. Then the front page of the Daily Nation, big test for Ruto, Raila handshake. And former Prime Minister Raila Odinga's bid for the chairmanship of the AUC was widely seen as a game changer in Kenyan politics, but the loss that inevitably draws him back to the local scene presents the first major test for the opposition leader's truce with President Ruto, and we'll see what happens. Loss paves the way for Odinga's grand return to the helm of ODM party, which he had handed over to the Kisumu governor on a temporary basis. I want us to listen to what Raila Odinga said on the evening of that election in Addis on Saturday.
It's a speech that I was not prepared to make. I was not prepared to make this speech, and therefore I'm very reluctant. But I want to begin by thanking all of you. You made me so proud. That you have traveled all the way from Kenya to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to be with Baba at this moment in time.
Right. Mheshimiwa Koech, were you there?
I was in that hall.
What was the mood in that room?
The mood in that room was very unpleasant. You know, it's a mood of a feeling of loss. The weight of loss was heavy in that room. We were quiet largely, and we were comforted by the fact that Raila Odinga still stood very strong and very comfortable, despite the challenges that, like he mentioned, that we experienced in the voting, not winning. We came out strong, and he came out extremely, extremely strong. I was not just in that hall. I was in the AU hall, actually seated in the Nelson Mandela hall, watching what was happening, and it is extremely painful that we got second position. Nonetheless, it is a win for us as a country that we are able to be present in the continental stage with the candidates for not AU Chair Commission. It is not an easy task. Not many countries do that. We were 3 countries. And allow me to read something for the supporters of Raila Odinga and for those who really have suffered this pain. And this was a statement by the 26th president of the U.S., Theodore Roosevelt. And it says that it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or even where the doer of the deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm and great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of his achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls, where neither know victory nor defeats. That is Raila Odinga, in short.
And because you were in there during the voting, how those rounds, what exactly happened?
You saw what happened in the first round. So the first count, Raila Odinga was ahead with 22. We had 18 for Djibouti and 10 for Madagascar.
Right.
On the second round again, Djibouti was catching up, came to 18.
No. Yeah, the first round was 20 for Raila.
20. 20 for Raila, sorry.
Richard from Madagascar, 10.
Yeah.
Round 2, 22 for Raila, 19 for Yusuf, 7 for Richard. Round 3, 20 for Raila, 23 for Yusuf, 5 for Richard.
It's a long story, but to cut the chase short, let me just tell you that there's a lot of things that play out, and I witnessed it. First of all, I think there are three things that come into my mind that I observed. Number one, religion is an extremely big factor. Number two, the word you used earlier in your statement, geopolitics. And number three, language. If you see what happened, and this is my judgment, and even judgment that we discussed. Of course, we don't know who voted where, but I believe that even in East Africa, we did not confront this election as a united front. There are those within the East African community that I believe strongly did not support our cause. One of our neighbors comes to mind. On the second round, you remember the statement that had been issued by SADC, and I did an interview with your journalist, Seth Olale, and I did mention that statement by SADC, a few days before the election, was extremely suspicious and unexpected, though unexpected. That, in a very big way, seemed to have swayed that bloc of SADC, the people who probably have discomfort about the influence of Kenya in the region in terms of politics, in terms of peacekeeping. Many have viewed Kenya with a lot of suspicion, not suspicion in a bad way, but suspicion of competition, that Kenya could be taking into the continental stage, leaving other countries behind. And in the spirit of Pan-Africanism, many global powers do fear a true Pan-Africanist, and that I think they saw that in Raila Odinga. And of course, when I look at it also, it's more of interest than persuasion. Right. There's a lot of interest that come into play than persuading countries to vote for you. There is huge interest in this kind of election. That again came into mind. So there are so many things that came into play, but most significant was that SADC vote that I think went to Djibouti. Okay.
We'll come back to you for more from an eyewitness account of sorts. But Mheshimiwa Mbui, we haven't heard you comment since that loss, but what did you make of this statement on the Kenyan candidate?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. First, let me just say that this wasn't even a loss for Raila Amolo Odinga. It was really a loss for Kenya, because Raila wasn't there as a candidate, as an individual. This is not a normal election like the ones we present ourselves to the public and then they vote for you. This is an election where countries take a position and they decide which country they would support. So basically, it's really a loss for the country, and I feel that it's unfortunate that some of the things that you've talked about here, like the issue of the Francophone countries, just because they speak French and we speak English, they ganged up to support a candidate from their region. But other than that, I think I think the Kenya Kwanza government, because that's a government in place. That's a government that was running this campaign. I think they bungled this campaign, in my opinion. And I'll say this, you know, there are times when you go for elections, and I'll try and connect this to even our own elections as individuals. There are people who can give you a lot of money to support your candidacy, but if they show up, if they turn up, if they are seen in the campaign trail, or if they get a mic, you lose that election. Now, there are several things that I think Kenya Kwanza have done wrong. One is how they're managing the issues of the local issues that are in DRC. Because these are people, there's two countries here with some kind of conflict, Rwanda and DRC Congo. And Kenya should not have, at this particular point in time, should not have been seen to have taken a position. You should have seemed to be very neutral. And you notice that DRC would attend a meeting of SADC, but not attend a meeting of EAC, chaired by our president. So I think already in that kind of conflict, you end up losing maybe one or both of the countries. So I think that was a blunder. The other one is that SADC did what is expected to be done. Just like the EAC could have issued an advisory and told the region, support the candidate from Kenya. So SADC did give an advisory for a candidate to be supported. And what did our foreign team do? The one chaired by the Honorable Nelson Koechia. The CS said nothing. The PS went on the offensive and really castigated the SADC countries. Now, in view of what he did, I'm certain that those that eventually, when the candidate fell out, those who felt the condescending attitude of this PS would obviously vote the other way. You know, that's basic politics. People take offense at the kind of things that you tell them. Again, I've also noted that since this regime came into power, if you remember at the beginning, the president was a globetrotter. He was all over the country, all over the world, all over the continent. And in some of the meetings, there are some things that he said that were a little belittling, in my opinion, to other presidents. For example, when he talked about the fact that presidents from Africa would be invited to a meeting when only one person, one president comes, one head of state to show up from the developed countries, and then all of them would be there, 20, 30, 40 of them. I mean, it may have had some sense, but in essence, it was condescending on those that had already been in office longer than him. Okay. So I think there are certain attitudes about, the way he's postured over the period when he was elected that may have also created bad blood. You know, people never need to tell you to your face that they are unhappy about the things you've done, but they wait for the opportunity to come and, pay back time. I think some of those countries may have reacted also to the attitude of the president over the period. So I think, in my opinion, Kenya Kwanza did support the bid of Raila Amolo Odinga. Maybe if it was another regime, he would have won.
If it was another regime, he would have won. Let's listen to what the president said on that evening while in the company of Raila Odinga for the dinner.
I would not be telling the truth if I didn't say I am disappointed. I am. But I am disappointed because of two things. Number one, I am disappointed that Raila Amolo Odinga did not win, because he was the best candidate. And I have a regret for Africa that they missed an opportunity to be served by the finest of our country.
Mheshimiwa Kagiri, what do you make of that? And of course, there are many other sentiments that we'll be analyzing, but your reaction to what the president has said, but also the outcome of that election.
Thank you, Sam. I'll start by doing two things. First, I'll wish myself happy birthday because today happens to be my
Oh,
birthday.
happy birthday.
As I thank God for life and
You should
good
have said
health.
that early. We should have said that
Yeah.
Now you know, it's still not too late. Then the second thing I would want to say is great minds think alike. So I also wanted to read the same quote Honorable Koech has read. But for me, I just want to stop at the line that states, the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. Some I would want to state that in regards to Right Honorable Raila Odinga and our President, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, I would want to say these are very strong men and men who put themselves out there for a battle that was very difficult for them. Some, as I'm listening to my colleagues speak here, I'm wondering how we are forgetting that politics is a game of numbers, or any election is about numbers. And some I'll take you slowly through the former chairperson of AU. That was Mohamed Faki. He's from Chad, and Chad is a Central African, is in the Central African bloc. Already coming on board, he comes with 11 votes. Even without any other vote, he was already starting at 11. We look at his predecessor, who was Dlamini Zuma. She came in from SADC. She already had 16 votes starting off. We go to her predecessor, who was Sean Ping from Gabon. Gabon came in with also 11 votes from Central African, the bloc. Then we go back to, I think, Alpha. Alpha from Mali also was coming in with 15 votes from ECOWAS from the start off. Then here comes our candidate, Right Honorable Raila Odinga. We just had the EAC bloc, which has 8 votes. That is, if they were even a united front. So looking at those demographics, I wonder why we should sit here and blame each other. In fact, for me, what I'm looking at is we should be congratulating these two great gentlemen by the fact that first round and second round, Honorable Raila Odinga could afford to be a winner. On what basis? It means we had very good foreign relations. Then look at it also, Sam. I've given you the 4 candidates who have been chairpersons previously. Chad is a Francophone country. Mali is a Francophone country. Djibouti is a Francophone country. Gabon is a Francophone country. I believe what we should be discussing here, and maybe what AU should be discussing, is if in future it's going to be a fairer ground for everybody else. Because looking at the demographics currently and the statistics that we have, it can only speak to one thing, that it is Francophone countries that will forever keep winning the chairperson seats. And in situations like the one that we had in this particular election, despite Djibouti not being a member of any bloc, the bare fact that they are a Francophone country, they already had their 22 votes on board. So some would want to say I'm equally, for me, I would even not say I'm disappointed. For me, I would say I congratulate these two great gentlemen because I am left to wonder how they even made with the 20 votes and where they got them from.
Interesting. To also know that this time round, the seat had been reserved for the Eastern region, which is a region of 14 countries. And the region then nominated Raila Odinga from Kenya, Yusuf Ali from Djibouti, and Richard from Madagascar. Senator Onyonka, you were there at the Foreign Affairs Ministry, and you might have interacted with a bit of the team in Addis and the African Union. What do you make of these laws? What a statement is it for Kenya?
Sammy, thank you. First of all, I want to tell Kenyans that if they open today's paper and go to the page 6, which has been done by Barack Mluka, and they go to that's in the Standard, and if they go to the Daily Nation, I think on page 4, there's a story that has been done by a wonderful gentleman, actually 2 gentlemen. I've listened to what my colleagues are saying, and imagine I agree with them 100%, because they are in government. Now me, I want to tell them what government did not do right.
Okay.
And some of these things are, it's a mix of very interesting things, Sammy. You cannot go for the elections for the AU seat, or even indeed for Gutierrez's job, without looking at the geopolitics. In other words, your behavior, our behavior as a nation state for the last 2.5 years, or even could have been even for 5 years, is what will be predetermining for us whether we have the capacity of going for this seat or not, irrespective of what and who the candidate is. So I'll give you an example. And when I raised this yesterday, I put it on my X. I had very many people who are friends with the KK government screaming at me saying, Onyonka, you are a bit mad or something. I said, listen, anybody who has worked around the people in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will tell you Eastern Congo is a time bomb. So anything you want to do there, whether it's a bilateral agreement you want to go and sign, whether it's an agreement you want to sign with Kagame, whether you are going to access and have space with M23 leaders, whether you are going to be talking to the Interahamwes, all right, who are FDLR, what do you do with these people when you meet them? And when their issues come, what do you comment about them? Everybody will tell you that when the president of Kenya decided unilaterally to cancel a motion that the Kenyan government under President Uhuru had brought for Sahrawi to be considered as a legitimate state which is supposed to be functional under the auspices of the AU.
Right.
The first thing the president did was to write a letter cancelling the arrangement that the Kenyan government had requested, where Sahrawi, in fact, was already nearly just going to be sitting on the AU. And when the president wrote that letter, what basically that did is that Morocco became very happy, but Algeria went crazy. And then you find Algeria has relationships with Sudan. Sudan, which is now what? Which is in a mess. Then you find that our president is bringing members of the Rapid Deployment Force, which is a team from Sudan, which is fighting with Sudan, not South Sudan, Sudan the mother. And those guys have been staying in Nairobi, and the Sudanese know that. You see, and then you come, when you're looking at Eastern Congo, there is no way you can't look at the role of Angola. There is no way you can't look at South Africa's role. The relationship between Rwanda and South Africa. All these things to balance them, Sami. And this was my experience when I was in the ministry. You need serious experts, and these are the workers at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The teams which are experienced, the teams of ambassadors who have been trained, and some of them have gone to some of the best universities, were supposed to be the people around President Ruto and Raila. Instead of us taking 100, 200, whoever, our brothers in government and many of our colleagues of the broad-based arrangement who went to Ethiopia, we should have just collected the ambassadors of the countries that were going to vote, take them to Addis and let them sit and come up how they can compromise, secure, negotiate, and agree on what to do. So when we start raising these issues, Sami, what I'm telling you is the professionalism that used to be the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is no longer there. Number two, I have given you the geopolitical issues, and I've not finished them, by the way. There could be 7 or 8 that we have bungled on. Number three, when your country is running for such positions, there is a way you carry yourself. And Sami, diplomacy is silent. When you hear too much noise in diplomacy, then whatever that diplomacy is intending to do is never achievable. So the moment I saw everybody running all over the place, how the Prime Minister is taking this jet and is flying over to about 48 countries, is meeting all these presidents, and in fact, oh, the people who are there, Makau Mutua, oh, the president's friends, and oh, you know, this is the Other countries don't operate like that. When you have leaders who are responsible, they understand. In fact, the person who went there legitimately is our brother here. Why? Because he's the chairman of the Defense and Foreign Relations Committee. He should have gone with 3, 4 of his members. That is legitimate. What are you carrying 200 people to go and make noise?
But Mheshimiwa, how was Raila supposed to campaign if it's not to move to different capitals of the...
No, but you do it quietly. You do it quietly. Because there are certain countries, if they know that you're visited in some areas, are you with me? And there was a conflict of interest there, they rebel back. They push back. They say, look at what that guy is doing with our enemy. And yet that was not your intent. So there are certain things which should have been done quietly. Are you with me? Look at what Suluhu did to us.
What did she do?
I mean, immediately she just announced how Yusuf has won, and she didn't even mention anything about Raila. And
Was she supposed to mention?
And you see, when you look at what has happened with the Israeli conflict, look at the question, the sensitivity of the Muslim community. Kenya has maintained a position diplomatically, Sami, of a two-state solution, a state for Israel and a state for Palestine. What did the president do the other day? He said he takes the Israeli position. What do you do with the Arab countries and Muslim countries? You are handling sensitivities that you need to understand that in diplomacy, the impact of those sensitivities are far much wider and bigger than you are portraying them.
Let's listen to, and I take note of what you just said, that professionalism that used to be at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is no longer there. Let's listen to the PS, Foreign Affairs, because he was also referred to by Mheshimiwa Mbui on his statement about SADC position.
The letter is dated the 12th of February, merely 5 days to the election. The letter is addressed to foreign ministers. It tells foreign ministers that it kind of introduces the candidate as if nobody even within SADC knows him. It then goes ahead to say, we don't have time to hold a ministerial summit to endorse this decision, which means that that decision will not even be endorsed at the heads of states level. And so it is not a letter that endorses the Madagascar candidate. In the end, the letter merely asks, out of courtesy, it asks the region, as is expected, to support their candidate. To our minds, we think that this letter is sort of an afterthought. We think that it is mere courtesy to show a bit the minimalist solidarity extended to a member of their region. And so to our minds, we do not think that it will have any bearing, but we are not taking chances. And that is why I did mention that in light of that letter, because we already have we already have quite some assurances from a number of SADC countries of their support, we are reaching out again to SADC countries to understand what the motivations behind this letter could be.
Anything wrong with that?
Absolutely, yes. I said, this letter came out before the elections are taking place. As a diplomat, Kenya has got ambassadors in South Africa, Botswana, Malawi. We have our ambassadors there. They should have briefed the CS, I mean
PS.
The PS, appropriately enough for them to have known that South Africa was actually not going to allow the SADC countries vote for us. Why? Because we had already gone against South Africa by taking the Israeli position. South Africa had taken Israel to the International Criminal Court to prosecute for violations of human rights. So when our president contradicted South African position, and indeed I suspect that the South African position on that matter is what maybe the African continent was going to mobilize and take as a common position. So with that one statement, we lost SADC. So for me, the statement the PS was making was, it kind of made me feel like they have given up.
Mheshimiwa Koech, was that issue of SADC mishandled, if you had to reflect on what the PS said?
Absolutely not, Sam. Like you said, it's, even me, in my view, I think it was just a pure matter of solidarity, requesting the SADC member states to support one of their own. It happens. It's part of diplomacy. My issue is the issue that Honorable Jane has raised. This is a game of numbers. Maybe it's high time, and I'm telling you this, it will not be easy. Actually, we had the best of candidate in Raila Odinga. It will not be easy for any other person to win this seat, purely because of numbers. What we should be looking at is that, is it possible, to start looking at AU constitutive acts and see if we can make amendments so that it is not, we have a way that the AU chair seat can go to the Anglophones, because if we continue this way, you can be very sure that it will be very, very hard for anyone from this region to get it. There's also the fear that I'd mentioned before, the global powers becoming uncomfortable with certain region. You know, the stature of Raila Odinga, Sam, was that stature that, you know, Raila Odinga has a stature of almost a head of state. He's been a prime minister before. He has friends across. In fact, Ramaphosa himself is his personal friend, you know. And many people, even when we met people outside there, they really respect him. He's respected in the continent.
Is that an asset or a liability, knowing too well that these are also politicians that are making the vote inside Mandela Hall?
That's what I'm saying. Many people, particularly global powers, fear, have, you know, some reservations on, you know, very strong, opinionated Pan-Africanists. But just, and there's this point that you've asked, Onyonka, that I do not want to miss before we go on, that is saying that we do not have professionalism in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That is an extremely unfortunate statement. I am the chairman of Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations. I directly oversight the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We have professionals in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, brilliant people in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, workers. I've also seen people cast aspersions and, you know, criticize the role of the National Intelligence Service. It's become lately easy and very fashionable to attack the National Intelligence Service and the persona of Nordin Haji. I want to say that that is an unfortunate. And it is because of sheer ignorance of people. People do not understand the role of the national intelligence. I do appreciate the role of the national intelligence, both locally and globally, in terms of making sure that they give proper intelligent information to the head of state. Nordin Haji is brutally efficient, and that is why people have a problem with him, and particularly people from certain quarters feel uncomfortable that for once we have, you know, a Somali as a national, but someone was a Somali origin, as a director of the National Intelligence Service.
What quarters uncomfortable?
I'm just saying that. Let me
honestly,
just, so let me, I know, I was just trying to put issues, Sam, I didn't cut you short.
Profiling.
I did not
That
cut
is
you.
negative ethnicity.
It
Those
is.
things, we can't peddle them
Just
here.
allow him.
The person who said it has not said it on TV. He's saying it.
I am saying it.
Kenyans have no issues with the Somalis. We have no problem with the Somalis. We have a problem of bad governance.
Stop being
a problem.
Can you allow me
I'm
to
not a
speak?
bully.
Shut
Don't
up.
say those things on TV.
No, just shut up. I
Don't
allow
say
you
those
to
things
speak.
on
I
TV.
will say it because you are,
say them.
you did cast aspersions at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
And because
Just
no,
because
I will
you
answer.
are- No,
I will
let me
answer.
just
You
speak.
twisted
Allow me
my
to
point.
speak,
Don't
Nyonka.
twist my
Please,
argument.
I respect you as my senior. Can you
I
allow
have a
me to
right to
speak?
answer.
Why do you feel offended when I
I'm
say
not
that?
offended. You're just lying.
Just because you left Foreign Affairs does not mean you left to the people who are brilliant.
No, that's
Okay?
not what I
You
said.
are not a reserve.
You have just
You are not
recruited
a
ambassadors from people who never even went to school and made them ambassadors. That's why we can't get results.
Sorry, can he finish?
That's what I'm trying to say. Let him not lie what I said.
Then I'll get to you.
Don't lie about what I said.
Statement.
I am.
And I had asked you,
Kenyans have no problem with Somalis.
sorry, I had asked you to clarify what quotas are you referring to that they have a problem with Haji and where he comes from?
I saw yesterday, actually, one of your online statements that came from, you know, members, certain quarters that, you know, we should look at the ministry, the PCS should resign, and the Director of National Intelligence Service should resign for having bungled this election. I want to say, Sam, that they did the best that they could. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the National Intelligence Service, the Secretariat, Raila Odinga himself, the entire team, including the President, did an exemplary work. All I said is that the numbers will not add up for candidates from this region. It's extremely difficult to maneuver the Francophone countries. It is something that I've said that we have to relook at our foreign policy. We have to even find out if it still makes sense for us to really be in blocks that do not benefit us as a country. I'll go, for instance, Sam, and say, what is our interest in geopolitics, in our regional politics? What is the interest, for instance, of us trying to bring peace in Congo? What is our interest in trying to host many refugees in this country. Why can't we adopt a policy and a philosophy like the Trump philosophy, where you bother about your country and, for instance, forget about looking at what the other neighbors are doing? Because we have gone, we do a lot for other countries. We go out of our way to make sure that other countries are comfortable. We try as much as possible to see that as a country, the peace within our region is maintained. Kenya has been an anchor state in peace. But what do we get in return? People don't scratch our backs. I know of our neighbors who we've hosted for many years, who I think, in my view, did not vote for us. Why do we still continue having refugees from such countries? It is high time we look at our foreign policy. Does it benefit this country or does it cost us? What is our interest in a conflict in Congo? We were doing it because we are brothers. We do not want to see a country within our region that butchers itself. That is why we go even further to Haiti. But then we have to relook and say, does it still make sense for us? Is it something that we will want to continue doing?
That's a very heavy statement to make here. Is that your thinking or the thinking of the government?
It is my thinking. I'm just after the defeat, I'm just looking at it and saying, why are we going through all this? Why as a country should we be very fair where people do not want us to, where people don't seem to scratch our backs? Why do we continue investing in countries? Why do we continue investing for them to have peace? Yet, when it comes to our turn for support, they don't give us support. This is about interest, Sam. It's about interest, and that is why SADC voted as a bloc. It is because of interest. What is our interest as a country? If countries within our East African bloc, some of them do not want to support us, yet some we've shown support to them, it is high time. I wouldn't know because they're secret ballot, but I mean, they are quiet, they are mamas within the diplomatic circle of who might have voted. Anyonka seemed to have alluded to, Tanzania as one of those countries that, the president was so quick to congratulate the Djibouti candidate. It comes to mind also that probably because of the SADC bloc, they might have not voted for us. Somali, for instance, and I'm not saying that they did not vote for us, but I have a strong feeling that maybe they did not vote for us because, of the interest within Djibouti and other interests that come in. So it is...
You also said that we've been hosting some neighbors who did not...
We've hosted neighbors. We've hosted neighbors from Ethiopia. We've hosted neighbors from Sudan. We've hosted, refugees from Somali. It is high time that we look. I'm just saying that, I'm just thinking loud, and I'm saying, is it time that we look at these things? Is it time that we say as a country, can we...
Any of those neighbors that we've been hosting did not vote for us, and who are they?
It is certain. I'm certain that two of the countries within the East African community did not vote for Kenya.
And that is?
I don't know those countries. I do not want to mention them here. But I am saying, because we could, I'm saying, when you're there, Sam, you can see. When the results were announced, you can see the team that cheered, very loudly.
It's a statement of fact.
I have said SADC countries, I've said SADC countries. I'm saying some countries in East Africa. And Onyonka seemed to have alluded. I mean, he has more...
Let me take a short break. I'll come back to that particular point, and also looking at the implications of these developments to the national politics in Kenya, that is, after the break.